road trip. We are certainly in good company, actually, tonight with two CEOs who are taking their companies to the top. And I'm very pleased to have with us, dialing in, we have Jong Kim, who's CEO from Yanolja, and we have Aloke Bajpai, CEO and co-founder of Ixigo. Now, Yanolja raised $1.7 billion, expanding globally. Hi, Jong. Hi.
Hi.
And Ixigo raised $53 million and now heading for a $215 million IPO. So congratulations to both of you for raising funds and preparing the road for an exit at this difficult time. Now, tell me very briefly, what was the first thing you guys did when the funds were closed? Let's go to you, Aloke.
Well, to be honest, Siew, we didn't have much time to sleep, let alone celebrate, because within 4 weeks of closing our round, we actually closed an acquisition and we filed our draft red herring prospectus. So it was one crazy month for us. And since we were profitable, fundraising was more for funding our acquisitions and future growth investments. So we think it's a huge sense of responsibility and trust from new investors. So more than celebration, I think we are, it's a huge sense of responsibility that we are worried about. And I just hope that we'll be able to solve the travel problems of the Indian travelers that we've been catering to. And that would be the true cause of celebration, if we are able to achieve our
Absolutely.
goals.
So it's only the beginning. You look like you need some sleep, Aloke. So Jong Yoon, you told me that none of the staff were actually in the office when the funds were closed.
Yeah, because everyone is working from home due to the social distancing policy in Korea. So it said that we could not celebrate in person.
Yeah.
So the news of our just the funding was announced through the town hall. And I did celebrate by myself, drinking beers, only for the 30 minutes. And I had another conference call. So I hope the time will come and we can all meet in person and celebrate as properly as possible.
Well, maybe in Singapore in October, Jong Yoon, you can come here and we can have a few soju with you here. So Alok, you quoted on my LinkedIn when I interviewed you, and you said, when it comes to startups, you either die a hero or you live long enough to go public. So Ixigo started in 2007, so 14 years in the making, right? What's your secret to making it out alive for now?
I think the secret is very simple. Just don't give up on your dreams and just don't die. I think as a team, we've been fairly resilient. And one thing I would like to say that, despite COVID, and people made some very deep sacrifices in the last 1 year. Like people took some very deep pay cuts and hung around. We didn't have to let go anybody, thankfully. But I think we never run out of ideas to stay relevant. If I had to put it down to one thing, it's just that we started as a meta, we evolved into OTA, we went into trains along the way. We found this huge fortune at the bottom and middle of the pyramid in the form of next billion users. And we've been extremely lucky to continue finding such opportunities for growth in a very hyper-competitive environment.
Right, so constantly on the go and churning out the ideas. So Jong Yoon, Yanolja, also headed for an IPO. What's your secret to making it out alive?
Yeah. Education I get the most recently due to the high expectation about the Yanolja, but please understand that according to the publicity policy, I cannot say anything about the IPO, but I think anyway, Yanolja is moving forward for the continuous growth, and we'd like to be kind of the hope in this market because we have very difficult time because of the COVID-19. So making the high growth and profitability and having the big funding, this is the big the hope and good momentum for the travel companies.
Well, we heard from Screw just now, right? And he basically talked about the importance of cash at this time and, how cash is absolutely anything is the most important. Now, Alok, I'm curious, why an Indian IPO and not NASDAQ or NYSE? Because both Make My Trip and Yatra, went to New York. So why an Indian IPO?
I think at the time, other companies went public. This was 5 to 10 years ago for these companies, right? And I think from that time, the Indian stock market has also gotten more depth and maturity. We can't talk much about our IPO in particular because of the publicity guidelines, but what I would like to say is that for us, the decision of thinking of India as the market was because we were incorporated in India. We've always targeted Indian travelers. I mean, almost all our users are Indians, and we've gone deeper into tier 2, 3 markets. And I think it'll just be great if some of our users and customers can get to be a part of our growth.
Right. So I know, Jong-Yoon, you're not going to be able to answer my next question as to whether you're considering a SPAC or not, because a lot of companies are definitely considering a SPAC. So I'm just going to go to the audience and actually ask them, right? Imagine that you're a retail investor. Are you less likely to invest in a SPAC-listed company versus a normal IPO because of the reduced disclosure requirements? So from the audience, whether they will, are they less likely to invest in a SPAC? And we'll wait for the answers when they come in, okay? So Aloke, when I read your story, and I wanna congratulate you on your, is it a 525-page prospectus that you wrote? How long did it take you to write that prospectus?
Well, I mean, I didn't write it on my own. There's a whole team, and of course, there's lawyers and bankers and all that to help. This process we started back in April working on our filing. Yes.
It's an amazing document, but it sounded very deliberate. Like your road to exit was quite deliberate. Did you sort of do this with an IPO exit in mind, or was it kind of like organic and accidental?
I mean, if you look at our story, like I said, we've had this meandering journey, right? We started as a meta for flights, but we discovered that India actually, is not a market where the Western template to build an OTA may work with flights and hotels. And we thought that, unless we go after trains and buses and the next billion users, it will be very hard to build a large, relevant travel company that every Indian can identify with. So I think the journey has been quite serendipitous and kind of has its own twists and turns with the evolving needs of the customers that we found along the way. And I think the only thing that gave us confidence about going public was that despite COVID, you may have noticed that we continued growing despite COVID. At the end of the last fiscal year, we had more than twice as many passenger segments booked every month than what we had at the beginning. And I think the fact that we could turn profitable and manage the situation well gave us the confidence that we can perhaps go for some bigger goal for ourselves, and that's what brought us here.
Right. So been a meandering like 14 years. Whereas with Jong-Yoon, I mean, you told me that when you came into Yanolja 6 years ago, you had a very deliberate vision in mind, and what you said was like, what we want to do is integrate B2C, B2B, and online, offline data to build a meta platform similar to Amazon. So a very deliberate move, right? And it is this Yanolja cloud that you are expanding globally. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, correct.
Right. How hard was it, to basically, so you have a consumer super app in South Korea and a B2B Yanolja cloud in South Korea, and you're correct. Taking the Yanolja cloud globally, right? Correct. How hard was it in this 6 years to, go on this very deliberate journey to get to this point?
Sure. So I believe Amazon's success comes from the end-to-end data flow across value chain between supplier and consumer. That means that digital transformation like Amazon is quite required to be the next level platform in this market. However, in the global travel industry, the value chain is quite fragmented and all the touch points are disconnected. So we believe that to make automated process and to make the cost efficient for all the market in global, we need to develop the solution for every hotels and the other travel-related suppliers. So 6 years ago, we began developing cloud-based hospital solution and integrated the solution with IoT devices and the solution like an inventory distribution system of our own in the cloud. As of now, Yanolja has about 30,000 hotels as our clients, as our solution users in 170 countries. And I think that's the kind of the secret how Yanolja can integrate end-to-end data flow, and we can evolve into the innovative IT AI companies. So also we try to find out the many partners to integrate B2C and B2B and online and offline. So to be the global tech company, we are looking for many partners to connect it and to integrate it with our solution as well.
Right, that's why you signed the partnership in Vietnam, right? At about the same time with VNTravel, and to basically scale the Vietnamese market. So, lots of partnerships. Now, I want to come back to, the philosophy of travel. And, in an interview that I did in 2010 with Booking Holdings CEO Glenn Fogel, I remember him saying to me that really, one had to be like Booking.com, they had to be a hedgehog and to stick to one's knitting, right? And basically he said that the fox knows many things, the hedgehog knows one thing, all right? And talking about the Booking.com focus on accommodation at that time. But now we have travel brands like you that are really just adding different services and different you adding flights, tours and activities, tickets and all that. So are the days of the hedgehog over? Right? Do you have to be a fox to survive today? And I'm also going to ask the audience that poll question, and we're going to come back to their answer. So to Aloke, are the days of the hedgehog over? Do you have to be a fox to survive?
Well, I think, look, it's very hard to be a horizontal play and be good at everything that you do. So even if you diversify, you have to be good at really one thing that people talk about, right, when it comes to your brand. So I do believe that diversification is important, and COVID has taught us this lesson. For example, if we didn't have the train and bus business, we would have obviously been in a harder spot. So I think it's important to diversify and have not all your eggs in one basket, but then you need to have one thing you're known for in the market, and that needs to be your prime focus day in and day out.
Right, and that seems to be Yanolja's formula too, Jong, right? I mean, you've got a lot of things, but you're known for accommodation. You're known for your, property management systems. Would I be right in saying that?
Correct.
Okay.
So I think to speed up to speed up the diversification, definitely the company should consider the acquisition, M&A. And also, original OTA model depends on the web. And the web depends on the digital advertisement or performance marketing. But with app business, we need to focus on the average revenue per paying user to be profitable. So to survive during the COVID-19, I think Super App is quite good solution to diversify and monetize our own traffic to save our cost and to increase our revenue.
Right, because both your companies during COVID, actually, you managed to maintain profitability, despite the difficult times. So I want to just go back to the polling that we had, before about those billionaires fighting to be the first to travel to space. Do either of you want to travel to space? Jong Yoon, Aloke?
Yeah, why not?
Why not, right? Okay. So from the audience, we have almost 50% saying that it's pioneering, that someone has to take a lead, and the rest basically saying distasteful or wasteful, right? Distasteful is a waste of money, is only feeding egos and not hungry mouths, and wasteful because we should save planet Earth first. All right, then to the audience polling on the retail investor, are you less likely to invest in a spec-listed company versus a normal IPO? We have almost 65% saying maybe. It really depends on the company. So it's not about the instrument, it's about the company that they are investing in. Okay, so are the days, I need more hands. Are the days of hedgehogs over? We have maybe 10%, maybe, but it's getting harder and harder to compete. And C, no, there will always be room for quality, niche, and different knitting. That's 90% saying there'll always be room. All right, so nobody believes that the days of the hedgehogs are over. All right, so now let's go to, you were talking about acquisitions, right? So Aloke, you bought, in rail, you acquired Confirm Ticket, and then in bus, you acquired Uphe Bus. So are you going acquisitions for the route to the exit? More acquisitions being planned?
Well, the acquisitions we made this year are all companies who actually focus on the opportunity beyond the tier 1 cities and beyond flights and hotels. Like I said, we believe that building the leading travel company in India will involve, going to the smallest of towns and being relevant for travel there. And I think, these are all companies that both the companies we acquired also managed to stay profitable and remain relevant and resilient during COVID. And we had been in conversation with them for a while. And I think for us, any company that's relevant for, the middle class, the tier 3 markets in India, we are interested, and we continue evaluating and will continue evaluating opportunities in that space for the next billion users.
Okay, so Jong-Yoon, Yanolja Cloud is setting up a base in Singapore, right, to expand in this region. So are you acquiring as well as you expand beyond hotels, like, with tours and activities? There must be lots of companies now. Like it's a good time for you to acquire, right? What are you looking at?
Frankly speaking, we are communicating with many companies in many countries to acquire or to invest into. And the reason is that, as I told you, we would like to speed up our globalization and diversification. So in Korea, we already acquire quite meaningful companies. That's the reason why we can be the super app as a first, the pioneer in this market. So copying the Yanolja's the success story and formula, we would like to expand into many countries with our partners through acquisition or investment.
Right, and
but I cannot open the. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Is your focus Southeast Asia or is it global? Because you bought a company in India, I think in 2019, right? So are you just focusing on Southeast Asia, or which markets are your priority?
India, Africa, and Southeast Asia are the main market we are focusing on.
Right. So Aloke, what advice would you give Jong-Yoon, because India is a tough market. It is hyper competitive, it is almost vicious, right? So what advice would you give Jong-Yoon? I mean, he acquired Easy Technosis, I think in 2019, right? So what advice would you give Jong-Yoon as he expands into India?
Well, I think you have to be patient with India, and you have to think beyond the first 100 million users, think beyond the obvious internet users, right? There's a whole new market that's coming online.
Thank you.
Because in your prospectus, Aloke, you spoke of the next billion users, right? And that accounts for 90% of the train and bus segments each. And then that's 50% of the flight segment and 55% of the hotel segment in 2020. And you basically, are dangling the NBU as the carrot for investors, right? What are you doing to bring this NBU onto your platform?
Yeah, we're not dangling. I mean, look, we've been doing this for now almost 8 years. 2013 is when we launched one of the first train-focused apps in the country. When no one was noticing this category, right? I mean, there was nobody actually even building any app for train travel. So I think we noticed it very early. The word NBU was coined by Google several years later, but I think if you look at our audience, if you look at our, and some of this is in the prospectus, most of it is in the prospectus. So 92.6% of our transactions today have a departure or arrival from a tier 2, 3, 4 cities, right? And not between a tier 1 to tier 1 city, right? That's pretty unique. And you know, I think it's been a result of several years of focus on this segment. And I think it's a patient process, but you know, you get rewarded over several years when you focus on that part of a market and that market grows. And I think that's what has been happening, and we'll continue, you know, focusing on that because it's very exciting. It's actually uncharted territory, and as entrepreneurs, you know, we are always excited when we go after uncharted territory because there's no playbook. We're probably inventing the playbook there right now.
Right. This NBU is also being used, next billion users is also being used, you know, across Southeast Asia, right? I mean, I think Google probably used that term in one of their, you know, in saying that the next billion users is coming on here. And, you know, Alok, I was speaking to your CTPO, Rajnish, the other day, and he basically talked about how you guys were trying to develop voice, you know, to bring on the NBU, you know, because in that segment, like you got 25, is it 25 languages, 25 dialects?
Yeah, there's more than that in India, yes.
Right,
and our app works in 8 languages now, yes.
Okay, all right, so now okay, I have a question. I imagine that we'd see a forking of tech where some gravitate towards super app status while others becoming increasingly specialized. What do you think? So let's go to Jong Yoon for that answer. So are we seeing like a divergence in the road ahead, right? You know, there's the super app giant land, the land of the giants, and then we're going into this sort of other road of beautiful niche road trip into, you know, specialized place. Jong Yoon.
Specialized place, I would like to go.
Specialized place?
Yes.
All right. What about you, Alok?
I agree. I think, look, you know, the moment where OTAs are focused on travel, we are already specialized because in the context of super apps, these are all horizontal players with multiple verticals. And I think our biggest strength is understanding travel better than the horizontals. I mean, that's what we should never leave.
Okay, so Alok gave you a piece of advice about entering India. So I'm going to ask Jong Yoon to give you a piece of advice because Jong Yoon came from McKinsey. I mean, like you worked with a big company before you joined Yanolja, right? And life will be very different as a public company, Alok. So, and most founders do tend to flounder in public environments. So Jong Yoon, what's your advice to Alok on how he makes it out alive?
Yeah, 2 things. So the total market size is so big. So I think collaboration and partnership are quite required. So how about collaborating with Yanolja in India or the other market? That's first one. Second, I think IPO is just method of the funding. That's it. So if IPO is kind of the objective or the final goal, which is quite difficult to read many employees to reach out the the goal. So IPO is just method. That's the advice to Alok.
Okay.
Thank you. And we should talk about the collaboration.
Well, you can talk now. I mean, we can pretend like we're not listening and you guys can, you know, you guys can negotiate now. But so Alok, other than the next billion users, which is really exciting, what's the most exciting thing happening in travel in India right now? Or will happen?
Well, in general, in India, you know, UPI, this unified payment interface, it's mind-boggling, Siew, what's going on with this new payment method that I think everyone with a smartphone has set up their UPI account by now, thanks to COVID, because, you know, it's a touchless payment system as well. Last month, India had 3 billion transactions on UPI with almost $80 billion worth of payments and GMV being transacted through it. I think it's a seminal moment for the country because we had the user base, but we never had the transactions going. But we now, post-COVID, everybody seems to have set up their payment methods, and we are seeing mind-boggling transactions happening in all e-commerce categories, not just travel.
Yeah, and it seems to be a real tectonic shift, actually, I think happening in global travel, in Asia as well, with payments, right? And Jong-Yoon, what is the most exciting thing happening in hospitality tech right now, since that's your expertise?
Automation and personalization. So as I told you, all the interaction and data are connected and digitized. So it's automatic to match the hotel and guest or supplier and the consumer in a very low cost. So from now on, AI technology and many digital technologies should be used for the travel. And also recently, ESG, so sustainability, is quite big issue. And to save the waste and to save the CO2, I think automation and personalization will be the necessity, not the option. This is a very big issue, I believe, from now on.
Okay, so finally, Aloke, what's the first thing that you will do after your IPO debut? First thing.
Does that qualify as a forward-looking statement? I mean, probably I'm going to go to sleep for a bit.
Go to sleep, okay? Sleep for a bit. And Jong-Yoon, what would be the first thing that you will do after you file for your IPO?
Same, sleep.
So I was going to ask you, like, one thing you do to avoid burnout, clearly is sleep, right?
Travel.
Travel, oh yes. And Jong-Yoon, what's the one thing that you do to avoid burnout?
Forget that you've been burned out by working harder and immersing yourself in the work.
Wow.
I like that. That's so Korean and that's so, travel and then they say work hard. Thank you so much, Jong-Yoon and Aloke, for the wonderful conversation and good luck with your journey ahead.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
See you.